Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today we are joining in on this game halfway through, 40 minutes on the timer there, and halfway through in this replay. I'm going to give you a solid noise warning for all my headphone users out there just before I hit replay on this, because we are jumping right into a live action late game as we attempt to cram a very action-packed game into something that the YouTube formats do appreciate. Trying to get it under around 40 or 50 minutes. Anyway, let's get into this match here. As we click play, we can see that we are already well into the late game here. The two important things that you missed, Fatal Baguette did manage to pull off. Fatal Baguette, by the way, our blue team leader up north here, the blue team leader in the northeast corner, managed to pull off the Baguette maneuver and managed to sneak the constructor into the back here with a bunch of thugs and walk down into these hills and decimate the bases down here. So that's why we are down a backline player in this position, while there is still one backline player coming up to speed over here. So that was a very successful maneuver. Aside from that, everything has basically been stock standard. That push was eventually cleaned up here by Shocks, our red team leader here in the southwestern corner, hailing from England. And so eventually the teams have stabilized here. Now, when I saw this replay timer and I saw 90 minutes, I figured, okay, well maybe maybe we're playing with a bunch of noobs. We've got over 30s for like the majority of the people in this game. So when I see an epic late game like that with true skills this high, I know I just absolutely have to take a look. Can't peel my eyes away from it. So we're going to take a look here, and we're going to consider this something like a tutorial on late game. We're gonna specifically be analyzing the late game here, and you're all welcome to come along with me for the ride as we analyze some of the plays that these players are making and how effective they are. Well, that was quite nice, wasn't it? What a great way to segue out of the introduction here. An excellent bombing run by Shocks here to devastate the production facility of Frosty Z. Frosty Z has been pumping out these lightning tanks, the Thor's experimental Terminator tank. And they've been sending them to the front line here as sort of a shock division. Get it? But anyway. Anyways, the naval contest has actually been solidly won by both of the naval players for the red team. So despite having no contest on the high seas, the naval seas, the naval theater, the red team has not been able to extend that push or extend that. I guess you would call it extend that advantage onto their shoreward opponents. So I think what I would love to see more than anything is Professor Barr expanding their economy, because you can see, yeah, we're kind of slim on economy actually for the hot pink player down here. We have a couple of these fusion reactors here. We have how many is that? 5? Yeah, 5 fusion reactors giving us a total 6,100 energy. But I think quite realistically, I would love to see like 50. You know what I mean? There's never any end to how much you should really be scaling these. So I'd love to see a big row of construction turrets here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we're building tidal generators out here. I think what I would love to see more is just a big row of construction turrets out here, and then on one side of the construction turrets we have energy converters, and on the other side of the construction turrets we have naval fusion reactors. That's going to give you a tremendous economy. You'll be able to pump out way more Juggernauts. But I don't know if Juggernauts are what we need. Maybe one Juggernaut on this lane here, accompanied by a ton of Shiva, and it does look like we've got that sort of queued up here, as well as the rally. So maybe that's what we'll be going for, and that'll be really powerful. Hopefully we get to see something like that. We've seen plenty of harassment here from long-range naval bombardment, Black Hydras and Epochs raining away their artillery devastation from afar, and that's quite nice. That's definitely it's definitely opened up the front lines of the blue team, who is now forced to defend their crumbling shoreline. You can see shield batteries have been put up all over the place. The plasma deflectors. I keep calling them shield batteries. That's a StarCraft thing. But oh, okay, we're rerouting the Juggernaut here. So the question is, what are we? What's our end goal here? We need to be thinking in terms of end games, and one of them, of course, is to build a Ragnarok or a Calamity here. There's a really impactful spot you can build it on. Let me see. Yeah, I think on this side right here. So if you build a Ragnarok or Calamity anywhere on this beachhead, it can fire well into the back line of the other team. For the red team, it would be somewhere right around here. And as soon as you get that thing up and running, you can start firing away long range here. Did I hear? Oh, okay. So we've got some hovercraft moving out here by Illinois. Elanius. Yeah, Elanius. No, I think it's Illinois. I don't know. I would pronounce it Illinois, but also that's not an American flag, so it could be something. It could be Elanios. Something interesting. Either way, I do like these hover tanks. I think that's a good idea here. Get those rolling, get those moving, get those grooving. Make sure that we have something to respond to that. We actually don't at the moment. We have no naval power. We've gone all the way into the amphibious gantry, and we've neglected naval supremacy here. So at least for now, there's actually no way to deal with these hovercraft. These hovercraft do have a depth charge launcher, so they can attack submarines. They also have that above ground cannon, which actually can shoot below water as well. The shells can sink below the depths and hit anything that's underneath the water. So these are definitely a pretty good option here. They don't have an anti-air, at least I don't think they do. Yeah, they don't have an anti-air, so these gunships are going to intercept them, and they'll be able to do some really good work here. Roughnecks have recently been tuned up a little bit, and they're actually now really, really effective. I mean, you still have to build them in swarmy numbers, but that's no problem for the late game here. As you can see that these have essentially no way to handle all of these Roughnecks that are just blasting them down one by one. Yeah, the Roughneck really has come into its own recently. It's definitely got its place now. It used to be kind of the younger brother to the Hornet, but now it's actually got some sort of gusto to it. See some unit spam coming out here, absolutely shredding apart the replay speed here. We're dipping down into the sub 10 FPS realm, but hopefully we can keep this up and running somewhat smoothly anyway. Everyone is starting to run up against their unit caps here. All the biggest players are anyway. We've actually got a lot of spam leaking through here from the orange player. Kevin is managing to sneak a couple of these grunts through. Pawns? Are they actually pawns? Oh, they're pawns, sorry. Managed to sneak a couple of these pawns through. They're actually getting into the backline here, and they can do a lot of damage. Oh, there is a plasma shield, so they're going to have to contend with that, I suppose. But if you move them directly on top of whatever they're shooting at, it doesn't really matter. They're just going to have a grand old time shooting at whatever they can. Oh, the Shiva doing a lot of friendly fire damage, though. Ooh, the Shiva set off a massive chain reaction in this base. The friendly fire is real, and that is a lot of Kel's production right down the drain. Kel's almost wiped out of this map already entirely. They were the frontline player right here, and you can see that it has been absolutely bombarded to smithereens by all of the long-range bombardments. Huge airwave going out here. We have the bombers sort of leading the charge here, but we do have plenty of fighters to try and help clean up this mess. Wow, we have tons of bombers going out here. Hundreds and hundreds of bombers. Not nearly enough fighters at this point. But a lot of these bombers are going to make it through. They do take down the advanced fusion reactor. They're going to light up all of the production facilities over here. Those bomber corpses can be just as deadly. Ooh, they start raining down. Unlucky if those bomber corpses take you out, but it's a possibility. And there goes all of Shox' resource production. 90% of the games that I see, the late game win condition has got to be those bombing runs. They can just absolutely cripple people. And with that player out of the game here, that suddenly takes out the majority of the economy for the red team. That was by far the largest eco center for the red players here. Now left only with T1 economy on the field. That's what I get when I cut air to do T3. Yep. Apparently Shox was focusing on T3, as you can see with all these Shiva that are lingering around in the water, as well as the Juggernauts. Not sure if these were handed over or if those were just produced out of his factories. But either way, did not have enough air, and that's all of Shox' production going down. Excellent run there. Ooh, we can see some Thors have actually broken through the front line here, and they have managed to make it into the back. Now, luckily they didn't kill, luckily for the blue team that is, they didn't kill any of the backline economy. They didn't hit any of the fusion reactors, but they did blow up a whole bunch of those energy converters, meaning that for the time being, the economy is going to be leaking energy like it's nobody's business. T3 factory also went down, which means that no more Shiva, no more Karganeth, no more of any of those are going to be coming up anytime soon. Tons of gunship working on these Thors that are rolling forwards. Those Thors, man, they can shrug off a hit, can't they? Yeah, they can, they don't really care. They're just too wide. They call me Mr. Wide. Not Mr. Worldwide, just Mr. Wide. Looking like Mr. Fisk out here with a body built like a square. And they keep rolling forward. They are getting pretty low, though. The bomber comes in and finishes off one of them, gets a little kill steal there. Next door is going to go down real soon, and I have a feeling that this one is not going to be long after. Yeah, okay, those gunships, they put in some good work. The one thing you can use is time to your benefit when you're dealing with those gunship, and so the fact that those Thor managed to get taken down is really a testament to how powerful they can be if they're given that opportunity. You get D-gunned alone, and I think I have to agree here. I see the marks of a D-gun, or rather the marks of a Juggernaut explosion here. And there must have been a, yeah, there we go. Illinois commander is moving in over here, trying to do their very best to stall this push. We must be able to see the commander, or at the very least see the radar signature. The commander is finally shown, and it will go down in a blaze of glory. But the Shiva keep marching forward here. Hover tank's doing a decent job of stalling this, actually. They're an interesting option as far as T3 is concerned. They fill a similar role in my heart as the Marauder. They're kind of like the very lowest of the T3 units. Like, they could very easily come out of a T2 lab, or some sort of, yeah, I don't know, some sort of T2 lab, and I would be happy with it. I think the only reason that they come out of the gantry is because they didn't want to bother with a Tier 2 hovercraft lab. Meanwhile, nuclear bombers are mopping up the rest of these Shiva. Already the damage has been done, though, to Illinois, although I guess we do have a few advanced fusion reactors still remaining in the back line here, so things are not looking completely over, at least in that sense. Blink production has now stalled the entire economy of Shox, who is... Well, I can't tell if Shox is still trying to get into this game. Interesting. Despite massive hits to the Reds' economy, we still haven't pushed in yet. Now, we are still leaking T1 units out of the back lines here. Tremendous T1 spam production. Absolutely nuking my replay speed here. And we're just throwing as much T1 as we can directly into the pond of the enemy space. I would love to see these spread out a little bit. That's one option, or one critique I can offer, in case you're getting into these late games and you're starting to spam out units. Certainly consider right-click and drag a lot sooner. Yeah, okay, that was a little better. Basically just to make sure that you're constantly spreading the units out and you're covering as much surface area as possible with them, because that's really the benefit, right, is that you force your enemy to have to dedicate resources and spread themselves incredibly thin. Whereas you're essentially just giving up a bunch of T1 units. You don't really care about where they go and whether they live or die. You just care about making sure to stress your enemy as much as possible. Meanwhile, no Amphibious to crawl up the shores here, and I really think we ought to. I think if Lost Deadman was able to create an Amphibious lab, well, I mean, went ahead and decided to create an Amphibious lab, right? He's perfectly capable of creating an Amphibious lab. But certainly I think building that Amphibious lab is super, super important here. Oh, I've completely missed it. We do have the Amphibious gantry up on the front lines here, and we are making a bunch of Marauder. Okay. Very nicely done then. I do apologize, Lost Deadman, for that out-of-pocket critique. Very nicely done. We do have a Juggernaut just freshly rolling off the labs here, getting its paint scratched up very nicely. You don't need a paint job anyway. The Juggernaut's purpose is a divine one of war and destruction. It will be the Emperor's fist on its mighty conquest. Thors have a blast bursting through all of these T1 spam. The snipers, however, have a blast shooting away at those Thors. They're an excellent target. They're massive, and yeah, you can see they shred off. They shred off the armor on those Thors real quick. Another round of fire. You can also see these snipers are getting pretty high ranked here. This one's a silver star, or a gold star general. We've got some silver bar generals as well. Name drop. But yeah, so what are we looking at as far as endgame? Well, huge commendations to Shocks here for not abandoning the match, still sticking with it even when times were when times were at their roughest here, trying to rebuild into this game as well as they can. That's always good to see. Always very nice to see. Now, as far as late games go, I really don't like this T1 spam. I think when you start spamming with more than 4 T1 labs, you're going a little off the rails here. All this could just be T2 spam. Like, there's no reason why we couldn't just keep growing our economy, and instead of just spamming out T2 or T1, we could just spam T2 instead. I mean, imagine how much more lethal it would be if these were sprinters instead of pawns, right? Run a whole lot faster, do a tremendous amount of damage. Like, things would just be so much better all around if we were using sprinters instead of pawns, or any kind of T2 instead of pawns, fiends instead of pawns, or even just welders, or maybe even some T2 vehicles. Get those lightning tanks out there. Any of those are going to have a tremendous effect. Marauder numbers are steadily growing over here, and this is going to be a really nice push. This is definitely one of my favorite ways to end out a game on Supreme Straits. Go for a massive amphibious push out in the water here, and just make sure that you're able to overwhelm the defenses of the backline players here. As of right now, there's no static defenses, so the only thing you'll have to contend with are the tremendous amount of gunships that are out, as well as the Juggernaut. Soon to be Juggernauts that are going to be covering here. But of course the Marauder can just run right past, so that's not really a huge worry. And it looks like indeed we will get to see the Marauders on their final push here. You can always go up north and try and push in this way, kind of sneak around the side here, and it would actually work phenomenally because the fusion reactors are right here. If you could just move in this way and then come around the side and go in that direction, you'd be able to take out the fusion reactors of our green players, Steel Blue. Well, that would probably chain react and take out a whole bunch of the production for Fatal Baguette here. Fighters are brought forward, and that's a really good thing. Ooh, this actually could be a really bad timing. Those gunships are moving forward. Well, actually, not all of them, so that's good. But some of those gunships are moving forward. Meanwhile, the fighters are moving out, and those fighters are going to have to turn around and go help those Marauders. Definitely don't want to waste our fighters on anything we don't need to. So we have a huge bombing run coming in here, and this bombing run is essentially uncontested. Meanwhile, a Marauder push is being countered by these fighters over here, being countered by these gunships over here, rather. The fighters are pulled to deal with the bombers instead, and the bombers will continue to harass Shocks. They do not want him back in the game. Going to take out the economy center, starting a beautiful slow-motion chain reaction here, as the fighters do manage to shoot down the majority of the bombers here. Very, very impressive. Now, the bomber corpses are still quite explosive, and so they will go down. Meanwhile, the Marauder have all been stopped here as they tried desperately to push in, but there's just too many of these gunships. Yeah, I think the fighters could have. I mean, it was actually a bit of a trade, right? Like, the fighters could have come back and dealt with these gunships, but then you would have essentially left your entire base open and vulnerable to harassment from those bombers. So that was actually a really tricky play. Those two plays essentially canceled each other out and led to a net zero outcome. We're starting up some spam here. We are going to spam a whole bunch of T1 hovercraft. Well, there's only T1 hovercraft, but we're spamming a bunch of Seekers out, which are a very powerful unit. They're very powerful in the early game specifically because they're very fast and they have a very high damage per second relative to other alternatives, like, say, the Tick, or the Rover, or the Rascal, or anything like that. So they can actually do a tremendous amount of work here. Meanwhile, Shocks has decided to move the commander forward. Yeah, we're thinking better of that. There's definitely going to be radar here, so this this commander is going to be spotted here and there. We do have the capital ships, though, the Black Hydras, here to lay down some long-range suppressing fire. Try and do a little bit of damage to all these tanks that are rolling forward here. Shiva are essentially helpless against these hover tanks, so you really want to avoid getting those hover tanks on top of them at all costs, if you can at all avoid it. Ooh, commander does go down over here. It was sniped by a couple of Shiva as well as some of those hover tanks. I did notice that we have pinpointers in the backline, so everyone is a whole lot more accurate. We're like 98% accurate or something like that. 99% accurate, something impressive. Choose a number. Any number. Interesting, we do see pulsars here being guarded by these T2 T2 walls. We don't see that very often, but it's an excellent idea. It can definitely increase the survivability. It makes it way harder for those Titans to laser beam down the pulsars. So that's actually really, really nice. I do like to see that. I think that's certainly a strategy to adapt and add to my own gameplay. Certainly an idea to include here. Meanwhile, this army has continued to push forward, although most of those hover tanks have been destroyed. The Shiva have retreated to high ground, trying to evade the depth charge launchers here. But there are still some Shiva under the water here for this blue player. Elanius, or Illinois, still haven't made a decision on how I want to call that one. But either way, the light blue player here has the Shiva to pose some sort of an issue here. We can actually walk the Shiva just underwater. There's no sonar detection. I don't believe... Yeah, blinks don't have any sonar. I don't think so anyway. Yeah, the blinks don't have any sonar, so you could... In theory here, you could just walk the Shiva all the way across. And I think I'd like to see that. I think we definitely need to get aggressive on the other side of the map as quick as possible. This T1 spam is going to kill you by FPS drop, if nothing else here. So many Juggernauts are out on the field here. 1, 2, 3, 4 Juggernauts, 5 Juggernauts. More on the way as well as we start stepping into the proper late game. When you build enough Juggernauts, I would say like maybe 10 Juggernauts, essentially what you do is you just group them up together and you just click on the enemy's backline. Because there's really nothing in this game that's going to stop that many Juggernauts. Because even if you have a ton of air, they're going to kill one of the Juggernauts and it's going to explode, and all of the air is going to be gone. If you have 10 other Juggernauts, they're just not going to be able to kill 10 Juggernauts fast enough to stop them. So it's really like you build critical mass with these Juggernauts so quickly. I think a Ragnarok would have been a decent idea as well. You can always build that on top of these... well, actually, I wonder if you can fit it up on top of here. Maybe you can't fit it up there. That actually does look like it's pretty small. But maybe trying to build a Juggernaut on the front line somewhere is probably not a bad idea. This siege over here is becoming quite annoying. Shock's using this navy to their absolute best advantage here as we're trying to shell away at these units from long range with the Black Hydra. Definitely need to move those into range here. I wonder if these could reach the back line. Yeah, they very well might be able to. Yeah, I reckon if these move all the way up the shoreline here very slowly, we're at 0.6 game speed here. It's definitely because of this. The orange and the brown unit spam have definitely been absolutely ridiculous. Have we just been handing units to Kevin? Is that what we're doing? Oh, my game, the replay of the game actually froze. Wow, that's pretty epic. I have a whopping 4 FPS whenever any of those air units move around here. Meanwhile, all of the projectiles here are moving in slow motion. Like watching bullets run through water. Yeah, this is kind of cursed. But it's also very cinematic, right? This definitely looks like a slow motion scene straight out of a war movie. You know, like an old World War I movie where it's like cavalry units that are being blown up by tanks and they're all flipping through the air, and you know, somebody gets like blown up by a hand grenade, and anyway, maybe this is too graphic for YouTube. Anyways, yeah, these Black Hydra are going to be a real threat here for a while. They're kind of posing this naval siege here, but I think if they scooted a little bit closer up on the shoreline, they might be able to actually choke up on Elanius' base. That could be really, really dangerous. Meanwhile, this many Juggernauts is dangerous no matter how you slice it. There's basically nothing you can do against this many Juggernauts, save for, I don't know, twice as many Juggernauts on your team, right? That's kind of all that comes to mind for me. Gah. Somebody yelling out, crying to the Lord for some sort of redemption. I'm impressed with how well Shocks has rebuilt himself here, still managing to contribute to this team while having their entire economy destroyed here. Taking over this naval facility is quite nice. Or did they? Oh, they were actually the one in the water the entire time, weren't they? Well, either way, having this naval facility is quite nice, because it does mean that they're going to be able to at least continue a little bit of harassment on the beachheads, which is what I think we should do. I think these hovercraft, or rather these Shiva, should push forward into the base here, the light blue base here. Meanwhile, the Titan brothers are moving forward, eager to blow up whatever they can find here. Laser beams pewing away. Excuse me, pewing away. Pew, pew, pew. Pulsar trying its best to melt them down as quickly as it can. But it's not very quick. Not very quick at all. Partially, that's because, well, they're operating at half of light speed. half light speed in this universe. The entire universe is operating a little bit slower than usual here. These Juggernaut have decided to march forward and reclaim this high seas. Submarines are tremendously effective against against these Juggernaut underwater body block. Look at that. These submarines are preventing this guy from actually doing anything. That's hilarious. Never seen anything like that. Okay, eventually it looks like the Juggernaut will change course here, as the T3 facility has been absolutely ravaged. That hovercraft platform was also disabled, and that is quite nice. That does mean that, at least for the time being, Blue is going to be safe from harassment from this northern sea lane. Chugging along, trying to get the entire map into frame. There we go, okay. From a overview perspective, we can take a look here, and we can see that, I mean, essentially this battle is an even atrocity. It's an even match of a battle up, or even match of a matchup here. We're trying to fire into the back line, but really it's not going to work. We need to start thinking on a grander scale, so I would love to see this T1 stop. This T1 spam is essentially ineffective at this point. You really only need one or two people doing T1 spam in order to make it effective here. We don't need this much T1 spam in the back line. What on earth happened here? Amphibious has been reassigned as a pawn for some reason. I'm not sure what just happened there. That's odd. For some reason, Amphibious' commander tag has been added onto a pawn in the backline here. That's a weird bug. I wonder what this pawn did that was so special. Huh. This is a weird place for a Ragnarok. You're not going to be able to shoot this thing over this mountain right here. So you can't shoot it over in this direction. Basically, you're only going to be able to shoot it down the sea lane here. Hacking. Yeah, little did they know these Shiva have just been biding their time for the last, I don't know, the last 20 minutes? 15 minutes? Hard to tell. This warped time frame, this warped perspective speed. Very nicely done splitting up these Shiva so that the commander could only go after one group at a time here. Does mean that the other Shiva are going to get well a nice little hit on the production facilities here. Bombers are coming in to deal with these Shiva. Those T2 bombers, man, they pack a punch. They can definitely blow up those Shiva pretty quick. And by pretty quick, I mean 0.56 normal game speed. Yeah, the defensive Ragna, everyone's laughing about that. That's pretty funny. Oh, accidentally bombing ourselves here. The T1 unit spam, forcing the bombers to start firing on their own structures. Very, very dangerous. We've all seen how the ticks can do that. For now, though, that push is held, and Fatal Baguette is essentially keeping this team alive. This is rapidly turning into a blue versus yellow and red, I guess. Someone's drawn out the field of fire of the Ragnarok, by the way. That's what these lines indicate. Can fire directly out of this here. Standard practice. Yeah, that's the default. That's the average beyond all recent play. the most expensive static defense in the entire game with a nearly global map range. Common practice is to use that as base defense, usually. Most usually. This field in the middle of the map is becoming really difficult to traverse. I think it's time we start building tons of resbots here. Swap out the T1 spam for a bunch of resbot spam. And I think you're going to be in a lot better of a spot here. Whoa. Some of these starlights exploded here. They chain reacted off each other. I'm not sure exactly what killed them. Maybe some spam from some T1 Seekers or something. Some of these hovercraft went through. I'm not entirely sure. Meanwhile, Juggernauts are having a really hard time here, stepping out of the ocean. The submarines, these T1 submarines, doing some good work here, melting down these Juggernauts. Couple percent per shot. Yeah, these are the T1s. Sorry, couple percent per volley, I should say. When they all fire, it's about a percent off. Doing their very best against this Juggernaut, though, whittling it down to 47%, 45% before it could even hit the front lines here. So that's quite nice. Is going to help the blue team hold a little bit better against them. You can see there's more and more Juggernauts on the front lines, though. Yeah, we just need to keep pushing these forward here. Just keep moving. Meanwhile, the Black Hydra have spotted the advanced fusion reactor over here. Ooh, and it does cause a devastating chain reaction over on this side of the map. And that is actually a huge snipe because Elanios was holding the line here against the Red Menace out in the water. So that's a really good pick. Very nicely done. I wouldn't mind these Black Hydras start firing into these bubble shields, although there is a tremendous amount of them, so I don't know if we're going to be able to get any kind of effect off. However, you could definitely fire into these bubbles in the attempt to ricochet some rounds off into the backline here. That's definitely possible. Another interesting strategy would be to go for a bot lane, or a couple of bot labs over here on this side of the map, build a couple radar jammers and some bot labs over here. It's a strategy we've seen before, but it can be interestingly effective. Yeah, something like this. You can see we've got the labs here pumping out some of these T2 units. These T2 units aren't going to be devastating against anything specifically, but it's just, again, redistributing that pressure. You always want to make sure that that pressure is being spread around fairly. That way your enemy has to spread themselves at least as thinly as you do. The Juggernauts do not care, though. They will keep marching forward, and they are happy to burst down all of these pulsars whenever they get the chance. This Juggernaut right in the middle here is looking pretty low. Ooh, it does go up, scuffing up all of the units around it. But those are proper T3 units, and they don't care all too much. The Thor is rolling forward, and if we could take down these construction turrets here that are keeping all of these defenses alive, it would certainly be a huge hit to this front line. There go the construction turrets. The Thor actually using the EMP missile. Very nicely done. Juggernauts continuing to march forward. But with one pulsar falling after another, it won't be long before this front line is completely ravaged. Big Marauder run-by was attempted here, but we have plenty of EMP bombers to shut this down. Unintentionally shutting down our own forces as well, but the beamer turrets are going to make fairly short work of those paralyzed Marauders. We all know how devastating the beamer could be. I would love to see a Nostradamus maneuver, by the way. That would be another interesting endgame, although you'd have to commit a apocalyptic amount of air forces in order to actually make that work here. Oh, okay. I'm going to park the camera right here so we can watch this, because I think things are about to get framey. Tons of bombers are grouped up. Not split up very much at all here. And, oh, the fighters are taking a pretty bad engagement as well. Will any of the bombers make it through? It doesn't look like it. Ooh, that is just devastating. Not a single bomber was able to drop its payload. Did we even manage to kill any of these constructor turrets? It does not appear so. Oh, there we go. One of these bomber corpses did chain react and cause a little bit of damage in the back line. But for such an exuberantly expensive bombing run, we got very, very little effect. Meanwhile, bombers are moving forward for Fatal Baguette, who is looking to take out some of this front line, it looks like. Though it's hard to tell. Maybe we're aiming for these advanced fusion reactors that are somewhat near the front line here. With the air wall depleted for the enemy, it is the right time to start making some sort of aggression in the air, at least. We didn't go for the Aphises, though. That's really unfortunate. We definitely could have got a nice little hit there on the front lines. Instead, we will just throw some of our bombers at the enemy here. Oh, no. So, both air players have just completely traded out here, although, is it really fair to call Fatal Baguette the air player at this point? They've certainly got quite a diverse portfolio here with the Juggernauts, the T1 spam, the air units. No one man should have all that power. We're continuing the T1 spam. Man, it is time to go to T2. I desperately implore that you upgrade to T2, Kerbex. That's going to be so much more effective here, and yeah. It's about time that we start thinking about that. More T1 does not always win the battle. Sometimes you have to be more efficient. I know it hurts to hear, but sometimes it's the truth. Loads of these tsunamis, seaplane, the Armada seaplane bomber is well, they were trying to do something. They were thinking about something. They got a little preoccupied though. Not the nukes. We are charging quite a few nukes here. We've got 6 built and a 7th just about finished. An 8th is already planned, does start up, and eventually we're going to start hurling nukes across the map wherever we can. Is 8 enough to overcome the anti-nuke defenses? Well, it might in certain areas. I do happen to notice that there's an exposed nuclear area, or an exposed uncovered anti-nuke area here. There's one up here, up north, and there's also this right here, which is a huge energy converter farm for the blue player. But if this chain reacts badly, it could certainly leak over into the other players' economies here. It's also the T1 unit source, so it would wipe out a lot of the T1 unit spam if we snuck a nuke through over there. The problem is there's no way that we have any vision over in that side of the map. It's just incredibly unlikely with how impenetrable the air wall from Fatal Baguette is going to be here. Tons of fighters being pumped out, and I think essentially what you need to do is just have one player dedicated to making as many fighters as humanly possible and constantly whittling down that air stream here. These fighters are going to be shooting at the gunships on their way past, though, and that's actually a pretty good trade. It's about time that we started working on those gunships. They've had a lot of time this match to build up numbers, and when you give gunships that much time, eventually they're going to hit a overwhelming critical mass that you just can't do anything about. We are firing the nuke. Are we firing them one by one? We fired one off. We squeezed one nuke off here. We've got 5 nukes charged. And we don't really have a great target for them. I'm going to keep these selected in case we do decide to target something. But at least for the time being, we don't have the vision for a great targeting here. If I switch to this view, you can see that all we know about are the fusion centers back here, as well as the fusion centers up here as well. All of which are covered by anti-nuke fields. This one is overlapped by 2 anti-nuke fields, so I think it will definitely be able to stop 5 nukes from getting through. We do see some anti-air trying its very best to shoot down some of these gunships that were lingering by the coastline. They do a decent job, actually. The gunships are looking a little bit thinner in number. We're going to have to see production on those resume if we want to keep those numbers high. In the meantime, more fighters are moving down south, and I wonder if we are... No, okay, I was wondering if we were going to try and snipe all those gunships here. More and more metal is thrown away on the front lines here. We do see some res bots, so that's quite nice. Yeah, I'd love to see these units resurrected and sent back into the fray. It's certainly going to allow you to build up a critical front line that could potentially break through here. No guarantees, but it certainly would be better than just the units that we can produce, right? Effectively doubling your army and handing it to the next one. We've got some gunships still lying on the ground over here. These same gunships, I should say. The fighters are now moving in again, though, and they will start to fire at these gunships that are just chilling out on the ground. And this is actually going to do a tremendous amount of work to these gunships here, who are just a stationary target. These fighters are going to have a marvelous time tearing apart these. Yeah, those gunships, man, they're in a whole lot of trouble. This is bar. This is beyond all reason. The gunships are all completely ravaged at this point. There are some more over here. Sabers, it looks like. Why are we grouping them all up right here? There's like a perpetual motion machine of these sabers landing and exploding and causing more of a chain reaction here. We just lost most of our gunships from them landing on top of each other. That is absolutely wild. Just checking that the music was running there, because you can barely hear it over all the artillery shells and everything hurling across the front lines here. So this is your lesson in late game beyond all reason. Go for the big guns. Build some Ragnaroks. Build at least a couple of nukes, and just start hurling the most expensive stuff you can. Don't do this. This is bad etiquette here. Building all these T1 labs. This game, if we just would stop the T1 spam and would move into T2 spam, this game would be the same stalemate, but we would have, we'd be going at normal game speed and the FPS would be a whole lot higher. So if you can at all avoid it, do not do a T1 spam. Upgrade to T2 spam as quickly as you can. It can hurt to eat up these T1 labs. It feels like you're damaging your economy, but don't worry, you'll be all right. Just make sure that you get enough. Make sure that you get enough of those T2 labs to continue production, right? Because it feels greedy. Definitely feels greedy to build those T2 labs, build more than one of them. But it's not. It's definitely worth it. More fighters coming in here, trying desperately to push through these defenses. What an astonishing late game. 2 Juggernauts, the twin Juggernauts rolling up the field here. And they do have this hovercraft support, which is absolutely crucial here, because if these get degunned, it's going to be a really bad day. We need these to do a tremendous amount of damage. Couldn't even render the explosion there. These Juggernauts need to make it into the back line. They need to do some absolutely fatal damage. No name drop intended. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck here for quite a while. Now this Juggernaut is getting really far into the backline here. We do have the T3 production facility from Frosty Z, as well as a whole bunch of economy for Nix Rosa. Nix Rosa has been mostly doing, they were mostly doing those gunships. Okay, so the commander has been spotted. Ooh, but it is going to get right up on top of that, Juggernaut there. And it will degun one of them all the way down to the ground. Meanwhile, the T3 facility has effectively been shut off because those construction turrets have been disabled here, so that's quite nice. That commander had degunned a flagship, that's hilarious. We need to focus this commander down. That is the most imminent threat to this Juggernaut here, but it looks like we will not. Meanwhile, the Juggernaut trying to get its laser beams focused on that fusion reactor, and it will succeed, lighting up all of the economy here in the middle of the map. Now we're going to self-destruct the Juggernaut, and I think that is an excellent idea. Juggernaut getting real low, 20% health, and it's melting fast, so we are going to self-destruct this. This will probably take out the commander, as well as anything else in the remote vicinity. Juggernaut goes up in smoke here, wipes out the commander, scuffs up that Titan, and absolutely ravages the frontline production here for both of those green players. Meanwhile, while it was hyper-focused over there, we do have a Thor that has managed to run right through the yellow player here, and continuing to push forward, showing you just how useless those T1 units are against some proper T3. Thor not getting the best of shots off, though, and it will end up falling before it can take down the advanced fusion reactors. Very nicely done. Luckily, the unit spam here is going to be enough to push back on this, but that's a lot of Juggernauts and a lot of Titans marching forward here. That could definitely be game-ending if we don't see an immediate response. Do we have any commanders we can use? Forlong. Not Forlong or Arlong. This is neither a One Piece reference or a sayonara. No, Forlog, the yellow player here, will continue to remain idle, but I would love to see this commander marching on over to deal with some of these Juggernauts. This is a beautiful little clump of Juggernaut and Titan flesh, and I think if we would send a D-gun right down the middle, it's kind of like bowling. If you send the D-gun right down the middle, you're going to end up with a wonderful, wonderful effect. Do we have any commanders we can use? Forlong. Not Forlong or Arlong. This is neither a One Piece reference or a sayonara. No, Forlog, the yellow player here, will continue to remain idle, but I would love to see this commander marching on over to deal with some of these Juggernauts. This is a beautiful little clump of Juggernaut and Titan flesh, and I think if we would send a D-gun right down the middle, it's kind of like bowling. You send the D-gun right down the middle, you're going to end up with a wonderful, wonderful effect. This Juggernaut is going to decide to self-destruct, and I don't hate it. That destruct is probably going to clear away most of the air forces here, meaning that future Juggernauts are going to be able to walk right in with very little effort here. Yep, takes out a whole bunch of those gunships, which is absolutely lovely to see. Takes out a whole bunch of these constructors as well, which is really, really important. Very, very nicely done on that front. Now we have the hovercraft spam are starting to move over to the right-hand side. For some reason, they're going after this Titan when really they should just be going straight into the back line here. You can see they can flash it down, but very slowly. Not their ideal target. Meanwhile, this has gone essentially unanswered. For Long has decided not to move the commander over there. Says crap as he realizes that his entire base has been completely destroyed. And suddenly that is a lot of Titan flesh right in the crux of the red team's economy here. Well, I guess not really. The crux of the economy is probably this over here and this position up north. Are we? Oh, okay. Right in time we decided to use these nukes. Oh, that's a terrible place to use these nukes though. Oh, I don't like that one bit. I guess there wasn't really a better option. There's not a ton of nukes over here. Oh, it looks like we have been using the nukes, just based on the explosions over here. Somehow or another we've seen the nukes come out, because I noticed that there's tons of anti-nukes all over the field in the back line here. Anyways, the Juggernauts are continuing to march forward, and they're actually looking very healthy, at least for now. These beamers putting in good work here, trying to blast down the Juggernaut as well as they can. But when the Juggernaut are in your back line, there's nothing you can do to stop them from being an absolute menace on the field. That one self-destructed over there. This one decided not to self-destruct, and I think that was a good call. I think it's got a little bit more value to give. It will eventually be bursted down by these Hornets, which are very, very good against these tanky units. But it will take out everything that the yellow player has, well, at least on that front line. As well as, I believe it was Avocado who had units up there. Oh no, Avocado was over here. Well, there was another player that was along this line as well, which was also wiped out by that massive push here. So we've carved a Supreme Street. We're making it, yeah, as this spectator has pointed out, we're making it very difficult for Thors to pass here. I guess that's a valid idea. Just gonna make it really difficult for them to make it through. Nuclear terraforming. We've seen that before. Maybe I should steal that title for this video. More and more Juggernauts are hitting the field though, and at this point the spam over on this side of the map has essentially been shut down. One Juggernaut, one Titan, and a couple of gunships here are going to be more than enough to shut down a measly little trickle of these Seekers here. Wow, tons of nukes were launched, but those anti-nukes were quick with the trigger. They had no hesitation about firing into those as quickly as possible. If you're going to go for nukes, you just got to commit to continually scaling them, just continue building more and more and more nukes. Lost Deadman, unfortunately, is in a position where that's not really viable at the moment. What is viable, though, is amphibious units, because once again, this base is only defended by Juggernauts. We're producing like... Wow, we're producing like a Juggernaut a second. Or Juggernaut a minute, I mean. That is absolutely tremendous. Ooh, we do have some nukes being launched here by Fatal Baguette himself. Sending those... Herself? Either way. Fatal Baguette sending those nukes out. Luckily... Lost Deadman was self-aware enough to build some anti-nukes, and so both of these players will be guarded from nuclear wrath. However, there are only one anti-nuke for everyone else on this team. There's not even an anti-nuke protecting the core economy center of the yellow player. So, if we choose the right location, we could definitely slip a nuke or two through, and that would be really bad. That would be quite devastating here for the blue or for the red team rather. Well, it'd be devastating for the blue team too, but the blue team has much more anti-nuclear coverage here. Let's see, we have anti-nukes built up on this hill, so finally this back lane, or this back, I don't know, corner here is also going to be unnukable at this point. Oh, it wasn't Fatal Baguette, it was actually, Chimreg? Not sure how to pronounce that one. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be their nukes that's actually headed out here. But again, there's plenty of anti-nukes here, so we need to stop trying to burst through that. We need to just focus on killing whatever else we can find around the map. The T1 unit spam, man. It just keeps going, and it just keeps going. The gunship numbers have been replenished over here on the eastern side. The blue team has rebuilt all of them. Meanwhile, the Juggernaut here is marching forward. It's pretty low health, but it's not like T1 spam is really going to do too much. The beamers are actually whittling it down quite nicely. Getting a decent amount of damage in, and there, you can see their DPS actually increases the longer they sustain their fire. Yeah, these are actually melting down the Juggernaut really quickly. I'm surprised. Who knew beamer turrets could be an effective defense against Juggernauts? Well, they don't last very long, that's for sure. It's kind of a shame that we didn't actually finish carving this path. I would love to see this channel finished here. Start nuking this little area over here. Oh well. At least we get to enjoy the nukes that are launched. FPS is improving here as more bases are eliminated. The more players that die, the more I can actually use the camera here. I can look around the map and see things. Juggernaut's falling left and right, and I think it's time to start spamming out res bots here. Ooh, we do finally target this backline position. Unfortunately, with only 2 nukes. If we had launched a full volley, I think we probably could have broken through. In the meantime, this thing has built up a steady anti-nuke coverage. You can see the little missile there, by the way. At this point, we're just whittling down the anti-nuke, but I definitely would love to see us charge up a whole bunch of them and just use them. Use them all at one time. Tons of anti-air hovercraft were sent out here, and you can see just how underwhelming the light anti-aircraft missiles are. As they take hundreds and hundreds before they even manage to bring down a single one of these gunships here. But they will eventually whittle down a couple of them at the very least. Not the most efficient, not the most effective, but damn if they won't get it done. Volume of fire, that's what they say. Anyway, those gunships are forced to react here, else they should lose their lives. As most of those anti-air hovercraft are completely shut down. In fact, all of them are completely shut down. Meanwhile, Juggernaut's on the front line here, mounting some sort of defense. So if we've just been giving units to Kevin this entire game, I really feel like we should have just given Kevin a constructor. Probably would have been kinder. Thors are resurrected and brought to the front line, and those are going to be a nice little static defense. Actually, these ones were built here. We are going to be launching some more nukes into this anti-nuke here. Again, it's just not going to be effective unless we charge up all of these nukes in one proper volley here. Actually, running out of space in the backline to grow our economies. We've sort of hit that space limitation. A lot of people asked. There was one person that asked, but I've seen this question come up before. Is like, why don't we see people build their bases a little more spread out? Like build. You know, why are the advanced fusion reactors always grouped together in such tight clusters? And you can see it's literally just because you run out of space here. Like there's no more room. I mean, there's a little bit more room you could squeeze out with some of these windmills, but is it worth the amount of APM it would take to get some constructors or something to deconstruct all these windmills and then build whatever you need? Now this is nice. It does look like we are starting up another facility down here, although we're having a lot of trouble because there's a ton of anti-air vehicles routed directly through where we're trying to build this thing. Might need to communicate with our teammates here and ask them to back off the anti-aircraft for just a second here. We're trying to essentially reduce this to 0 anti-nukes, and for what it's worth, we're actually doing well. We're down to 4 at this point. Okay, yes, we're just handing Kevin a whole bunch of random resources here. Kevin does have a constructor in the back lane, by the way. I did just now notice. Could try and rebuild into this game, but I think they're just enjoying microing a whole bunch of random pawns and whatnot. Where's this nuke headed? Oh, we're gonna start nuking the ocean here. Not a bad idea. This ocean has long been held by this player, and I'd love to see somebody start contesting it. It's very rare that we see the oceans flipped around in this game, but if you can do it, it's actually really, really valuable. Oh, a nuke does find its way into the backline here. Luckily, it doesn't detonate these advanced fusion reactors, but it does send up everything that the yellow player was relying on. Well, I guess there's a little bit of economy over here, but most of the yellow economy just took a huge hit. Oh, a second nuke comes down, and that's all of the advanced fusion reactors in that little cluster going down. That was a tremendous hit to the yellow economy, cutting it right in half. And that economy was the one that was holding on to a whole lot of the unit production here. Quebec's one of the main economies as well, and things are not looking good for them either as more and more nukes land in this anti-nuke field. We are down to just one anti-nuke left, and that's a little bit terrifying. Only going to take one more nuke landing in that zone. Ooh, and there it is. That's the last anti-nuke we fired, so if another nuke goes down in that field, things are going to look real bad real quick. The nukes are up. There's a few of them in the air. Didn't see where they're targeting, but I'm pretty sure we all know where they're going to land. Oh. Actually, looks like we might have adjusted our targeting. For some reason, one of them got shot down here. But this one looks to be entirely uncontested as it heads through the air directly towards the base. And boom goes the dynamite. All of Quebec's base is completely shut down. Thank goodness, because that means the spam is finally coming to an end. We can see the T1 spam immediately drops to 0% as all of the facilities back here are completely ravaged. There is no energy production left, and that is all she wrote for our brave little American champion in the back line here. Juggernauts are marching forward. Red Juggernauts versus blue Juggernauts. Who can collapse first? I think we might have critical mass here. We could probably just march these Juggernauts in. You don't have to get them out. You just have to get them in. And once those Juggernauts hit, it can be pretty devastating. Meanwhile, we're continuing to nuke this spot as just a show of bad sportsmanship. I'd love to see us diversify our nuclear attack portfolio here, try and spread some of those around. Looks like we will start firing on this facility over here, at least within range of this anti-nuke field, because it will start dispersing those anti-nuclear missiles. Still, though, that was already a huge hit to the red economy. If we take a look at the statistics, kind of the only way to even measure this game at this point. We can see that the blue team has produced significantly less metal. And yeah, way more energy. That's interesting. I wonder how they're producing so much more energy, but so much less metal. I guess way less energy converters or something like that. Are we stalling on energy or stalling on? I guess we're stalling on metal, which just means we can spend it a lot more. Maybe not reclaiming quite as much. That could be a huge source of metal on these games. This is the final push here from Kevin, though, was given the very last units that will ever come out. Kevin was actually handed all the facilities over here. That's funny. More and more anti-nukes are launched. Slowly, we are whittling through the anti-nuke fields of shocks over here, who does have a couple of anti-nuke ships up and running, but it will not be long before these are eventually drained as well. The nukes keep falling. Kevin actually hands back over all the pawns on the front line. Decides it's not worth the effort and hands them back over. Tons of Hornets are built here, by the way, in case anything breaks through. I think we're definitely traumatized from all the units that broke through on these front lines here. But we're definitely getting somewhere. The red Juggernauts have been pushed back at this point, and there's no way that the red team can break through this front line. I mean, look how many Titans there are here. Trying to get you an accurate number. 11 Titans. Looks like 9 Juggernauts versus the red team's 6. This battle is slanting heavily. At some point, it becomes a numbers game, right? How many more resources can you put out on the field than anyone else? So I guess, sort of, that's the entire game. It's kind of how it just goes all the time. But specifically in these late games, it can become very, very prevalent. These anti-nuke ships finally have their nukes charged, or at least 2 of them do. Their anti-nukes charged, I should say. But still, I wonder if 4 of them is going to be enough. We might still need more here. Yeah, we are starting up another one. Yeah, we might legitimately need more of those anti-nukes because we have a ton of nukes in the backline here. Meanwhile, these nukes have not been launched in a while. Or have they? And I just haven't noticed. Oh, it looks like they have, actually. Where have they been firing at? They've been firing right into this massive anti-nuke field. Tons and tons of anti-nukes were built over here. You can see there's just hundreds and hundreds of anti-nukes available. Yeah, no chance that any of those nukes are ever going to break through this shield. That curtain is solid as steel. Meanwhile, a T3 gantry has eventually been set up by Lost Deadman. But it might be a little too late. Whoa, huge push right here though. Seekers are breaking through this line and they take down a tremendous production facility that was set up by Fatal Baguette here to pump out some of those aircraft. With all of these turrets exploding in a massive chain reaction, eventually the hovercraft will be taken down, but it does shut down production for a couple of these T2 aircraft plants for at least quite a while. Manatee said it best. This is so dumb. You might even say that this is beyond all reason. And isn't it great that we skipped past the first 40 minutes of this game, because it's been a solid 40 minutes, if not longer, and we are still not decided on who's the victor. Although I have an inkling of a suspicion that it's going to be the blue team here, just based on the amount of economy damage those nukes have been able to do in the back line here. But man, what an absolute atrocity. Now there's no air player at all, so these gunships are completely uncontested. They move out into the water first and foremost, and they're going to start tearing down these Black Hydra, as it were. That is always nice. Gunships against, gunships against any kind of sea unit, well I guess against anti-air, anything but anti-air, are always going to be a nice little trade. So you might as well take it wherever you can. Meanwhile, the anti-air screen right here is working to keep any of these ships at bay, but it didn't protect those Black Hydra from this devastating wrath here. Fighters move in next, and they're going to try and start whittling down these gunships as well. But the fighter screen from Fatal Baguette has grown massively, and we can see that when these fighters clash, it doesn't take long for them to entirely melt away here. One Black Hydra remains. Not very many gunships remain, but definitely we could see a huge push come out of Fatal Baguette trying to break through the anti-air. There's loads of light anti-air here, but it wouldn't take too many gunships to burst all of this down pretty quickly. This Juggernaut is looking real low. I'd love to see this self-destructed so that we could actually take out some of these Hornets. Wow, look at how quickly they melt that thing down. Those Hornets are not to be trifled with. And Stealth Explosion ended up killing quite a few of them as well, but we are still producing a wild amount over here. Lost Deadman, responsible for the entire aerial congestion here, making sure that there's some sort of aerial defense mounted, some sort of air force up and about. Finally, the Juggernauts are going to start stepping forward. We have Behemoth rolling out of the factories as well, so that is quite nice to see. Still don't think this T1 spam is tremendously effective, but we're already up to a much higher frame rate just because this factory was completely shut off here. All of this turning off meant that finally at least half of the T1 spam was shut down, meaning that now 90% of the lag is coming from the blue teams here. The blue team members, I should say. Juggernauts of red versus blue clashing in an epic battle. You can see we are actually building a huge metal storage depot. Interesting. Wonder why we're doing that. Maybe trying to pull metal off the front lines or something, and we want to make sure that we can cache it for later use. Not entirely sure. We do have a facility over here. This is quite interesting. Some seaplane constructors, which look very cool, by the way. Building a whole lot of build power off on this island. I wonder if we're going to plan on building some sort of Ragnarok or Calamity or something like that. huge nuke charge was built, but they're about to find out that, yeah, they were not playing around with anti-nukes, and it's going to take a whole lot more nukes than that in order to cause any amount of significant damage. Didn't even take multiple volleys, just a single volley of anti-nukes to shut down every single one of those. Ooh, and a massive explosion right there. Massive explosion. We've got tons and tons of nukes, 28 nukes over here, all said and done. All of them created by Submarine. Cumrag? No. No, right, works, no. Fighters are starting to fly forward from Fatal Baguette. As we're looking to close out this game here, certainly the red player is exposed to bombing. This entire facility is exposed to bombing, as well as this one here. There is a ton of anti-airships, but as long as we avoid those, we're going to be in a fine position. The fighters are looking to do as much damage as possible, but really just mostly probably wondering where all the units are coming from. The answer is that there's not actually a whole lot of units out on the field. Not from the red player anyway. There's his last remaining Juggernauts, but everything else is kind of tied into the tan player over here. Although I guess it looks like we have a couple of advanced fusion reactors and some energy converters that were handed over for the red player over here, so I guess that's where a lot of the economy is coming from. Meanwhile, it looks like there was a bunch of anti-air built here eventually. Oh, and a nuke manages to land. Very nice. It does take out one part of the red player's production here. That could be quite annoying. Bombers are headed in. Not sure what they're targeting, though. Looks like they want to target this backline facility over here. There was tons of anti-air set up, so I don't know if these are going to make it. Oh, one bomber manages to drop its bombs, but I think that's all it's going to take here as a chain reaction is started. And those construction turrets do eventually fail. Let's get some Ryan Krause in the house. The scale of these is impossible to comprehend. So difficult to see where you should and shouldn't be focusing on these. Everywhere feels like a devastating battlefield. I'm also regretting not grabbing a drink before this. Throat is dry and parched. I need nourishment. Got a lot of casting to do today. And guess I better take care of that before I go on to any more of these casts here. These red Juggernauts have been holding the line, but every one of these that falls is essentially irreplaceable. Like, we're producing more back here, but we can't produce Juggernauts at nearly the rate that Fatal Baguette can. And so, meanwhile, while we're having that battle on the front lines, essentially everything Red's got is going to that battle on the front lines, while meanwhile, Fatal Baguette is charging up a massive attack over here. We've got gunships charging, we've got some bombers building, we've got all sorts of aerial units being pumped out here. We never rebuilt the construction turrets over here, so it's very, very slow. I would love to see, I would love to see these units being, or rather these factories being reinstated their construction privileges here. That being said, we are spending all of the 1,500 metal per second that we are pulling in, so that is quite tremendous. We've done a massive nuke charge, and we are going to try and drill through the anti-nuke field here. Oh, there's a lot of anti-nuke, though. Yep, we did not manage to break it, not this time. A lot of them are uncharged now, though, so if we've got more than one shot, we could certainly try and continue firing here. Yeah, a lot of these are pretty badly drained, actually. A whole lot of them are pretty badly drained. Yeah, I'm seeing 1s and 2s. Which does mean that eventually we will drill through this, but it is going to take a long while. Kevin has taken over for the yellow player here and has been reinstated a base of their own. They're going to start building in the back line here, trying to get some sort of production up and running, which is quite nice. Meanwhile, more and more of these nukes are launching out of every tube that can be mustered up over here. I will say it would only take one volley from all of these nuke chambers to just completely wipe out this entire sea lane here, this entire production facility on the sea. Either way, though, the nukes are being used up quicker than they can be rebuilt here, I believe. Yeah, we've only got 1 or 2 anti-nukes left in this field. And we've got plenty of nuclear launchers. These last 2 yellow lines, when they turn orange, things are about to get real serious real quick. We've got 1 anti-nuke charge there, 1 here, and no, down to 1. I don't see where the other anti-nuke is, but there's still another one that's charged over here. Yep, we're down to a single anti-nuke somewhere in the system here. Oh, there's a couple charged up in here. But we do have tons and tons of nukes coming out, and I think eventually we're going to drill through this. Should only take a couple more nukes. Eventually. Are these all on a repeat command, or are they just... yeah, they are on a repeat command. Okay, so we're just going to continue firing on this as quickly and as nuclearly as we can. Behemoth trying to do its dirty damage on the front line here, shooting that D-gun looking attack across the face of the battlefield, but it will eventually be brought down. These Titans are standing their ground, and yeah, the red player, you know, I've been saying they don't have a tremendous economy, but it's enough when used in the right way. And how these Juggernaut are standing strong on the front line. Oh, this is really nice. We do have some of these T3 hovercraft. The T3 hovercraft tanks moving out here, and they're going to start breaking the naval blockade. I would love to see somebody contesting this. Ooh, but we do see the Calamity almost done over here. Red's Calamity is almost done. And indeed, as soon as this thing finishes, we might see some interesting plays here. Yep, it has a pretty devastating effective range, and you can see that we can fire really far into the back. What? What is this? We haven't even gotten to the end of the game yet. What are what are we looking at? Show graphs and put that away. I don't want to see that. Was that spoilers? What on earth was that? Calamity starts firing into the backline here. More nukes are continuing to fire here. Ooh, that last one right there didn't have an anti-nuke assigned to it. Oh, I think we're about to see the final drill. That nuke back there as well does not have an anti-nuke charged. Yep, already too late for an anti-nuke to fire at this point. The nuke is coming down. And boom goes the dynamite. Ah, that's absolutely epic. The majority of the economy that Kevin was holding on to here goes up in smoke. And that is one more player that has been absolutely drilled through. Oh, actually, we've been building naval facilities out here, so we do still have a little bit of economy. Building those T1 energy converters, as well as some T2 ones out here. Trying to make sure that we can at least stay alive, but yeah, I'd love to see these nukes dispersed all over the place. Meanwhile, this Calamity is continuing to fire into the backline here, trying to get any hit that it can. If it starts firing in this direction, it has the chance to overfire and land in the backline here, which could be really, really bad. These hover tanks need to get on top of this pretty quickly. There are a lot of bulwarks here, though. It's going to be hard to deal with. Ah, this Calamity isn't getting the value that it needs. It should be shooting over here. It should be shooting over here. Ooh, this really hurts. These are being deflected by a plasma shield, so they might accidentally be sent flying way further than we actually intend to. Yeah, this could be really bad. If these start glancing off this shield in the wrong direction, they could be sent flying directly into the economy of the backline here. Getting really dangerously close. No anti-nuke here, by the way, I will point out. Uh-oh, we have a break in the front line. As well as more nukes landing in the back line. Just for dramatic effect, I suppose. But no, we do have more nukes landing in the back line here. Is this the last commander for this team? This is indeed the last commander for this team. Lost Dead Man's commander. Holding strong back here, but I'm a little worried about this thing if it ends up going, whoa, 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 whoa. Calamity did hit something back here, causing a massive chain reaction. The entire blue team's economy is wiped out in one single attack. Just one bounce off of these plasma shields managed to destroy everything in the back line. And that is the entire blue team wiped out. Wow. Wow, that is insane. The blue army had just broken through too. There's a Juggernaut headed into the back lane. And I think that is going to be GG. I'm not sure what this screen was that popped up, but I think that is going to be the end of this game. And we can take a look at the stats here. Fatal Baguette definitely had the highest overall. 92 minutes and 30 seconds. You can see that's the final timer here. So I think this is where they called it GG. I'm a little bit unsure. I think this replay might be a little bit bugged here, but that is certainly the end of the blue economy. That being said, these units are continuing pushing forward. Are these still being microed? See, because if these are still being microed, then there's a chance they might win this, just by the the commander condition. But otherwise, there's no way. Huh. Very odd. Yeah, there's no movement going on in the back line. I think I'm gonna call it here. I just don't know how to call it. Is this a draw? I mean, we've completely ravaged the back line of both of these players here. There's now no more unit production coming out of essentially either team here. And all of the units from Fatal Baguette, as well as all of the units from the red team, have essentially stopped being commanded. So this is basically a draw. I don't know. I think if these Juggernauts push forward, they win this game for the blue team. But if they don't push in there and they're somehow held, then it is a win for the red team. So I don't know how to call it. Maybe you can let me know. If you made it this far, you're certainly entitled to let me know down below in the comment section how you feel about this match. But I think I'm going to call it there. This is a proper look at a super high true skill late game where we see these players clashing heads, banging knuckles, and trying their very best to get into a proper gobsmacker of a game. Anyways, thanks a ton for watching. If you made it this far, first of all, I'm impressed. But second of all, thanks a ton. And I will see you in the next video.